All right, very good. Welcome to the class. I hope that everybody's enjoying looking at the world through this new lens and hopefully you will continue to do that, whether it's family, friends, just being out and about, watching people when they're driving, and taking note of everything that's going on with the cell phone, and especially with the youth. Remember that the argumentative essay is asking the question, how does the abuse of the phone affect teens? We know it does, but how? And how does it affect them mentally, right? And a lot of students are covering kind of like the same things, anxiety and depression, and then the whole sleep loss thing, sleep deprivation. But there's so much more. There's so much more. I can't think of the term right now, but there's a student that wrote about it before, when talking about how young girls are tripping and they're going to get plastic surgery at a very young age. Plastic surgery is way up for young people who feel like they're shamed on social media, trying to keep up, right? And should they be really concentrating on that, for their life? Not really. But anyway, so we're going to continue to explore this. So I'm just going to open it up. Has anybody noticed anything or felt anything or seen anything that they would like to share with the class this morning before we get going? No? Okay. Well, then we'll just move along. Today, Noea is going to give us a wonderful presentation on the MLA format, and also the recording of the sources that will be the last couple of pages of your argumentative essay. I will go also through the Canvas, as I uploaded another module for this week. And what we're asking is your first draft of your completed essay this coming Sunday. Remember, it's your first draft. We're probably going to do a couple of more after that. And the whole purpose of this exercise is to show you how to fine-tune an argumentative essay and how to argue points, that you're maybe passionate about. The most important thing is that if you say something on paper, that you support it with a source. And as I'm reading through, not so much as this class, but the other web-based class where we don't have like this type of interaction, there's a lot of misunderstanding, and they're still writing in first and second person, and they're still making claims without supporting the claims. You cannot say, young people are hooked on their cell phones, and then keep on going without saying, according to this study, according to this peer-reviewed article or this academic article, studies have found that. So, and what the argumentative essay does, it helps you to realize that we have to back up an argument with a source, right? And yeah, you may be able to on a corner just talk about stuff, without really having to support it. Everybody has an opinion about stuff, but what is their opinion based on? So it kind of like really opens up your mind, opens up your creative, your critical thinking and your analytical skills. That's what this whole exercise does. And so that's why this book, our books, the Understanding Rhetoric book, is so good. This is the white one is the newer one. It just has a couple of more pages. I've kind of A/B'd them, compared them, and they're pretty much running along the same lines. And this week I'm asking you to read about revision. And so the pages are the same in both of these books. And the other thing is that it's important to take a look at some of these sources. I mean, I give you guys lots of sources. This is the big source for me. But Gene Twenge's or Twenge book on the iGen is just so important, because she does an exhaustive study of the generation that we're examining. And the things that she comes up with are, they're mind-boggling, but yet they are really important. Sherry Turkle, which we watched one of her TED Talks early on, her book, Reclaiming Conversation, The Power of Talk in a Digital Age, is a very important and poignant book. And then this one here is a mind-blowing book. It's called A Dangerous Master. And it's written by Wendell Wallach. And the things that he says about technology and about AI, artificial intelligence, are, there's kind of like really futuristic, mind-blowing, analytical thinking. And if you get a chance, take a look at this book here. I'll put some of the quotes in Canvas for you. But the things that he says, he basically says that society, especially the United States, puts out technology before really testing it. Why? Because they want to how do you say it, rush it to market so that they start to make a profit. And I think that they may have done this with the with the cell phone, and it's an incredible instrument, but in the wrong hands at the wrong age, it creates problems that we're seeing through our research. Okay, so before we go to listening to our wonderful presentation on the MLA, I'm going to take us to our module. And so you can see where we're at. The modules are getting kind of short here because I want you to concentrate on your writing. And so here we're talking about revision, like I mentioned, and I'm asking you to read pages 259 to 285 in the book. And again, I love the way that they explain things, the way that they, especially with the using artwork and then the comic book format, it talks about revision and in a humorous yet very concise way. And like it says here, that's not what we want to show people about revision, which is, and I don't know if you've had the experience with teachers in the past where they took your paper, your essay, and they just used a red marker to mark it all up, and then you got it back and you said, oh man, this is not good. But what it says basically is that that's not what we want to show people about revision. Yeah, revision isn't just about correcting mistakes. It means exactly what it says, revision. Take a really good, strong look at your paper. It's about seeing a composition anew with fresh eyes, seeing your own work as if you were another reader. It's about considering possibilities as well as problems. And again, that's why I chose this book, because it's just so direct and using this comic book format. So we're gonna zoom out of here, go back to the module. The other thing, let's see, I've got a, oh, okay. I've added another model argumentative essay, and I went back and I did some research on and read about 3 from the last semester. And this was one of the really, really good ones. It's important that you take a look at a model of what your essay should look like. And this is kind of like already programmed pretty cleanly. And his title, A Jeopardized Future. And then he immediately uses a hook. Imagine a young person commissioning an art piece to hang over their living room fireplace, a portrait that depicts a puppeteer with a puppet in hand, joyfully forcing the puppet's every move. So he pulls you in with an interesting metaphor, right? And then he goes on to explain things, and then he dives into information. Like I said, you start off your essay with generic information, and then you get a little bit more detailed with your information before you start to make claims, and then you jump into your thesis statement. And so he does this very cleanly right away. He says things, he makes claims, and then he supports them right away with sources. Okay, and then his very first body paragraph deals with one of the claims that he makes, and you should write your body paragraphs in the same order that you make your claims. And so he does that pretty cleanly. So I hope that you take a few minutes to go back and read this argumentative essay as a model of a really good model of kind of like what yours should look like. Let's see here. Read and explore these extraordinary resources and use this credible information. So what I've done here is, I'm not writing it for you, but I'm trying to just provide you with as much information as I possibly can. How does your child's screen time measure up? How to break up with your phone, which is, it's a cute but poignant article with a lot of truth in it. Is your child a phone addict? It's a good way to think about it if you have children. Mental effects, which this is a mini PowerPoint that I put together that talks about the mental effects of the abuse. And then human contact is now a luxury good. I think it's important that you understand that the rich and the elite send their children to schools that don't introduce them to screens until the 8th or 9th grade. These are these conglomerates' children. They know the perils of screen addiction. And so to help their own children avoid it, they send them to schools where they don't introduce it till much, much later. And they're very, very strict about screen time in their own homes. But screens used to be for the elite. Now avoiding them is a status symbol. important. Even just the title says a lot, right? And it has a great story. And it talks about how the elite are not spending time on screens, but actually relishing personal contact. And so this is a really good article for you to contemplate when you're writing your essay, and even to maybe adjust your own personal use. Okay, and then we'll go back here to the module and solutions. This is a collection of solutions that I've collected. I call it an unplug checklist, and you may be able to use this in your own life. How to unplug to reconnect with yourself. And so there's like yourself, how to unplug to reconnect with family and friends, how to unplug to reconnect with your colleagues and colleague collaborations. And then there's other suggestions here. So there's lots and lots and lots of resources that you may be able to, I mean, hopefully you can use them for your paper, for your essay. And then finally, it says upload your first draft of your argumentative essay. I think that it's important that I continue to encourage you to keep moving. You know, we've talked about almost every aspect of the essay, and I think it's important that, okay, believe it or not, we've been in school for almost 6 weeks. We've talked and talked and talked. You've written a lot of stuff. Your letters to your cell phone were just incredible. They were eye-opening. You shared your thesis statement and got feedback from lots of students, which was, I thought, really, really, really important to keep us on track. We had a great presentation last week on research, on how to research and to do the best research. And now we're going to take a look at the actual format of your essay. Any questions about anything at all? How are you guys feeling? Is anybody feeling anxious about their essay, or do they feel like they've got lots and lots of support and lots of information now, and now it's just all about like putting it all together? It's like, okay, I'm going to create this incredible family meal. I've looked up all the best recipes. I went to all the different stores and got all the ingredients, even the little teeny weeny weird ingredients. Got my pots and pans and my oil. I'm ready to put this thing together. So any comments or anxiety about anything, or anything that is challenging you that we could talk about here before we launch into our presentation? Okay. If every once in a while you could show me that you're alive and that you're actually there. I know I've seen Joy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Zaira. Did I say it right? Your
Joy?
name?
Yeah.
No, okay. Mary, okay, I got a thumbs up. But okay. Okay, we got lots of thumbs up. Okay. All right. Noea, well, the floor is yours. Oh, I have to make you a my co-host here. Let's see here. Co-host, there you are.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think I got it.
Okay.
I'll share my screen in just a minute. Let's see, I think I have all my windows up. Hello, everyone, though. Looks like we're
Morning.
hello, morning. Looks like we're in the final stretches of this argumentative essay. Last week, we talked a little bit about searching the library databases, and I brought you through kind of like a very basic and advanced search. And we talked a bit about, why it's important to look up credible sources to synthesize into your own words, and um, how to best access some of that, like the library as a pool of information where you are more likely to find rigorous, information and vetted studies versus social media or even hanging out with some of your friends on the sidewalk. So I'm just going to give a short presentation on, just like your professor said, some of the nitty gritty of how to format your paper. This class is going to be using a system called MLA, and I know lots of you have probably heard of MLA citation systems. The first part of the presentation is just going to be kind of like a very broad overview of citation systems in general, because I feel like a lot of lecturers can just jump right into the rules, and I like to have a bigger overview picture of what we're doing. Why am I learning all these rules, right? Do I have to memorize these? When do I even use them? Why should I use them? So I'm going to talk about citation systems very broadly first. I don't want to scare your professor or alarm him because I know you're using MLA. I'm going to focus on that, but I'm also, for the first part, going to contrast it to another citation system, APA. And I will make sure that you don't get confused. But sometimes I think it's easier to understand one system by contrasting it to another one.
Right. That was the one that we used in Puerto Rico for when I did my my thesis for my master's.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What discipline was that in, your thesis? Like, I know I have it on a slide. I always forget off the top of my head, which I know like the humanities, literature, language, history, art usually use MLA, and then some of the sciences use APA.
Yeah, mine was education.
Okay.
And my master's was in teaching English as a second language.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
So let me share this first part of the presentation. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit, and don't worry, I'll send you all of the materials that I am sharing with you before the session ends. Make sure you have those. So you don't have to worry about taking notes too much right now. Just listen to it. So this is going to talk about the differences between APA and MLA and why we even use citation systems. So when you're writing your papers, you'll be using information from outside sources, and this is exactly how the scientific process works. We're always building off of what other people have already done, research previous experts have done. And because of this, because we're using these outside sources, we really, really need to know, again, which are your unique ideas? What have you seen or researched firsthand? What data have you collected? Versus when you are using an outside source and then just commenting or synthesizing or analyzing that piece. And if that doesn't get your attention, hopefully some of the consequences will, if you don't cite your sources in academia, the lesser evil is you just won't be taken seriously at all. You could be laughed out of the building. And then on the serious end, you could actually be suspended. You can have certifications taken away because that would be committing plagiarism. So it can be taken really seriously on a scale of how bad the plagiarism is. Usually the first citation, you just have a talk with your professor about what went wrong. And it can be escalated all the way up to the district level. So be very careful. You might just get a few slaps on the wrist at first, but as a professional, you really need to pay attention to that if you want to advance your education or your career at all. And I feel like the software for detecting plagiarism too has advanced even just from my going to school. I know in my undergraduate years, sometimes I could get away with a loose source. But in graduate school, I always tell the story that one time I had stayed up, I don't know, it was like past the 48 hours. I was so tired slapping a paper together. I turned it in a week later, got it back, and the whole paper was marked red. And I was just terrified. I didn't know what that meant. I had plagiarized like 90% of my paper. And then I had realized, I had to talk with my professor later, that I had quoted myself and paraphrased, like I had actually cut and pasted some old paraphrasing from a previous research paper, but I didn't cite myself. So I got into trouble for not citing myself on previous work that I incorporated into a new work. So I just thought that was funny. So just be very careful. This is why we have citation systems at all. You want to avoid plagiarism. So in the broader sense of things, APA and MLA, they do have some similarities. APA and MLA are just our two very major citation systems that we use. Citation systems are to tell us where the source has been gathered and exactly what part of the source we've used to avoid plagiarism. And think of these as like two separate rule systems so that we can communicate with each other in a like standardized language. We're all using English right now, so we can understand each other. We all want to learn the rules of either APA or MLA, so we can understand like the formatting very easily, the structure, and just glance at sources and know what it means. So in I can zoom this a little bit, sorry. MLA is typically used for literature, language, history, art, and theater subjects. And APA is normally for the sciences. I use that a lot in my library program. Nursing uses APA quite a bit too. So the similarities between these two systems is that both use the double spacing stylization, only certain fonts as well, only 12-point size and 1-inch margins all around the paper. Both use parenthetical citations within the body of the paper, like within your actual body of work as a shorthand to your longer references. And both use a sources page for those long form references. And they're called different things. Works cited if you're using MLA references, APA, and both use hanging indents and they alphabetize the entries. So that's that. Some of the differences we won't focus too much on. In MLA, you have a very particular way of laying out the paper. You don't have a title page like you do in APA. All you have is this header with your name, professor name, course, date, and those are formatted specifically too. We can go over that. So don't worry about the title page. MLA has very specific ways of writing the header. The differences between the InText citations, I like to compare these real briefly too, just so you have an idea, between APA and MLA. In MLA, on the left, this is what you'll be using most of the time. Whenever you are referencing a work in the body of your text, the shortcut way of doing that is having an InText citation and just having the name and page number. So name is the name of the author, page number with no punctuation, no commas or anything, no like pound signs for number. So here the example is just rolling 224 in parentheses. And that always goes outside of the quotation. I see a lot of students trying to like fit the quotation or put the quotation at the end after the period, strange things like that. You always want to put the period outside of the parentheses and then have the parenthetical citation outside of the quotation marks. APA is a little bit more involved. You have not only the name and the page number, but you also have the year and you have very specific punctuation. Don't worry about that. But MLA, a little bit more streamlined. Again, just the author last name and then the page number. And we'll go over that a little bit more in a bit. But in terms of multiple authors, if you have more than one author for a work that you are citing, in MLA, I believe you have, what is it? Oh yeah, you have the word and. In APA, I think you use just the ampersand, that funny little symbol. For 3+ authors, you use the same kind of abbreviation, et al. I think in Latin that just means and others. Let's see. And then on the sources page for MLA, you're going to have what's called a works cited page. Again, in APA, that's known as the references page, and that has your long form citations. And then on the long form citations page, the way that you write full names is a little bit different in each system. You want to write the whole name in MLA. APA lets you be a little bit lazier and just have initials, but this is on the last page when you are not doing your shortcut citations, you're writing out the full citation now. So you'll want the last name, comma, and then full first name. You can use the middle initial if you want in MLA, that's acceptable. So that, again, MLA is on the left, what you want to pay attention to. The capitalization of titles is even important when you are formatting your papers. In MLA, it is written in title case. So like every kind of important noun is capitalized. The complete stories of Franz Kafka. So capital letter is used at the beginning of each major word. In APA, this actually trips up a lot of people. I still get confused, and citation generators always miss this. It writes it in sentence case, or it writes it in title case when it should be sentence case. Sentence case just means that the first letter is capitalized and the rest is lowercase. But MLA always write in title case for the names of works. And here's some of the good stuff, the long form citations. So this is where kind of the full reference is going to be used on your final page of your argumentative essay. So they each have their own specific rules. I like to use these screenshots just because I like looking at the different colors. Those really help me. So we're looking at the bottom half of this, MLA works cited entry. It uses the author's last name, the source name, and the publication. So here, if you look at the example, I'll just hone in on this. So make sure, maybe I won't. It's always so hard to screen share and try to zoom in some of the stuff. So the works cited entry has the full last name, comma, full first name, period. Then the name of the whole source, the citation manual for students, a quick guide. You have the edition number, you have the publisher, Wiley, and then you have the publication date. And it also has the in-text citation. So you can see the difference between the full citation that you use at the end of your paper versus like the in-text citation. If I was just to briefly quote or paraphrase from this manual, I would have, again, the parenthetical, which is just the last name and then the page number. Or you could have, according to Smith, this is how we format citations in MLA and APA, period, and then the page number. As long as the last name and page number are within that sentence that you are citing the outside source, that is the important part. So you can say Smith as like a signal phrase inside your own words, or you can just have it in that parenthetical citation. It'll look it'll make more sense when I show you an example paper too briefly, and you can kind of see the whole paper together. And then authors in an online academic journal article. I like to show this example briefly too, because most of your sources are probably going to be like from books, like this example, or from academic peer-reviewed articles in journals that we talked about last week. So we don't have to go into detail on APA, but this bottom one will focus on MLA works cited entry. So if you're quoting one of those studies that you found a peer review article in one of our journal databases at the library, and it has like multiple authors, again, you'll want to use this and you write out. Oh, it's always kind of funny in MLA. You have to write, what is this? Oh, last name, then the first name, and then the other additional authors are written first name, last name.
Yeah, I've always found that kind of weird, but
yeah, there are some really funny nuances, just like in English, you know, some of our rules don't seem to make sense. So, but we have standardized it this way, unfortunately, so we all have to play this MLA game together. And then you have the quotations around this title because it's part of a larger work. And then this is italicized Journal of Sports Economics. That's the name of the journal. That has to be italicized. And then you want to be as detailed as the volume and number if it is specified. and then the publication date, page numbers, and then this DOI, which is kind of just like a URL. It's like a digital ID of the specific article, or you can put the URL if you don't have the DOI. And the InText citation, again, is that shortcut version of this long form citation in MLA. So if I am referencing this peer-reviewed article in the body of my work, I don't want to put this whole big long works cited entry every time I reference it in my essay, right? I want to do the short and sweet in-text citation. So we have the parenthetical and the narrative version. Again, the names of the authors with the word and if you have more than 2, et al, and the page number. And these are both really good resources with MLA formatting. One of the hardest parts, honestly, of using this citation system is that there are so many resources out there. It's just, what are the good ones? What are the ones I'm actually going to use? There are so many. So I really like these two. I'll send you the PDF of this little presentation. But Purdue is great because otherwise, if you don't use a guidebook that is an actual professional reference on these rules, you could be reading the wrong rules. Or I like to use this Purdue website just because it's free too, and it has a really good breakdown. Like, it's actually really easy for me to navigate the rules. I can show you this more in detail at the end of this presentation, but that guidebook is in there. Otherwise, you'd have to pay, I think, like $20 or something for the actual MLA guidebook. Yeah.
I paid the $20.
Yeah, I probably have to do that too at some point. Can you see me switching through tabs?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good. My coworker made this little presentation too. It's very brief. I'm just going to show you a couple parts. This is showing you not just the like citation rules, but how to format the actual paper too. And they put some memes in here. Let's see. So the heading of the paper, we talked a little bit about this. You want to have your last name and then the page number in the header. So you'll have to double click on the Word document to actually access the header portion. And it'll update every page for you with that. And then you want to put your name, professor, class, the date that it's due, and 12-point font. And the date, I believe, is written, what is it? The number of the day, and then the month and year. I have to write it out to make sense of it. Let me see. I think you're right. I'm going to write it in the chat. I think it's written like this. You want to write the day, the month, and the year. I have to double check that though. And then the full name of the month. You can't abbreviate anything. Then the title, make sure that your title in your paper is centered, no bolding, underlining, or italics, so no formatting whatsoever in the title of your paper. Another meme. Back in my day, we cited our sources. Hopefully you still do today. The quote. This is just an example of a quote citation. I think there's actually a tiny mistake on here because they have the name of the author Esquivel twice. You can only just put it once. But they have a direct quote here. You could just put the page number. Let's see, in the works cited page, again, make sure that this works cited page is on a totally new page. You don't want to have it right after the body of your work. And that the citations, the long form citations, are all in alphabetical order. If you're not sure if you should use quotation marks or italic font, there's another table too at the bottom here. So say you are referencing a book or a poem or even a television series, and you're writing the name of it like, I don't know, you're referencing the show Friends. If it is like an episode that's part of or if the work is part of a larger work, then you would use quotation marks, I believe, like this left-hand side, poems, short stories, short films. But if it's its own entity and it's not part of a larger work, you would use italics. So like the Big Bang Theory, I don't know why that show popped in my head. Um, that could be a title that I'm referencing. You want to format that properly. Let's see if there's anything else. And make sure you double space everything. I don't think they have the hanging indents in here. Oh yeah, make sure everything is 1-inch margins again. And then just staple it. I think we don't have to worry about that too much in our online world though. And let me show you one last thing. Let me see. I'm gonna stop the share real quick. And then make sure I'll send those 2 presentations to the chat. And then while you are downloading that, I'm going to show you one more thing. Let's see. There it is. And feel free to write some questions in the chat too as I go along, and I can look at those after. So this first one is going through. Okay, so that should be in the chat, the first little presentation, PowerPoint, and then the second one should also be going through, and they're both PDFs. Let me see. So you should be able to click on those. Just make sure you save those PDFs somewhere where you can access them and remember where they are. Okay, and then let me share this last one. And then putting everything together, your professor has done a great job of giving you a example. So this is just another example with some hopefully useful icons that show you formatting tips again. So we have a paper that was written in a previous class, and I chose this one too because it's topical to what you're writing about and learning about too, the smartphone and deep reading and the death of deep thought as their title.
I love that title.
Yeah, it's a good one. I did like this paper a lot, and this examples the whole paper. So I'll send this through the chat too. It's the last one.
Okay.
So putting everything together, again, you'll have the header up here, last name, 1 space, page number inserted in the top right margin, using an approved font. There are actually more approved fonts than just Times New Roman, but that's a good one. And then this is an example again of that header we talked about. We're not doing APA, so we don't need a full-on title page. We just need this header. Okay, cool. And I did get the date formation right. I'll have students just reorder this all the time. They'll put like August 28th, 2020, because that's usually how we say it, just verbally, but you want to put the date first. Make sure you are tabbing all of your paragraphs. There are some good examples of InText citations in here too, I believe. Oh yeah, see in her book, and they italicized, Proust and the Squid, the story and science of the reading Brian. Marianne Wolf writes of the language of books that the obvious and special vocabulary that only appear in books. I think this goes on for a while. They're paraphrasing for quite a bit. Okay, so they paraphrase and directly quote a little bit, and they have the page number down here. And if you find yourself using the same source and you are paraphrasing or quoting from it a few times in one paragraph, you don't actually have to put an in-text citation after every single instance. You can just put it once in the paragraph, and as long as it's obvious that you're pulling from the same source. So I learned that too, because I used to be so scared to get points marked off that I over-cited. Block quotations. I think this actually might be a little error too that the other professor didn't catch. Do you know, Professor Rodriguez, if you need the quotation in a block quote? I thought you didn't.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I gotta double check. If a quote, a direct quotation is longer than, I think, 4 lines. Joy, did you know?
So I did the quotations. Is it going to hurt me, Professor? Just to be on the safe side?
No, I mean, these are little ticky-tacky things, you know.
Okay.
But what I love about all of this is that it just really teaches you to be very definitive about your paper, you know, and it's like That's why I keep saying that hopefully this will be everybody the best thing that they've ever done, because it's going to be a work of art. And all these little fine little details really make it very, very professional, right? And it's just something that you could take with you forever.
Yeah, you can definitely be proud of this paper, and just the practice that you do with this paper, I think is going to be invaluable, because remember that these citation systems aren't like languages. You're going to use it again if you're going to stay in academia, or if you want to get a professional job that has you do some research. So any text-based research that we do when we try to communicate to others, we have to try to follow these rules so that we're taken seriously and that we can communicate easily. There are only two ways that you can reference outside sources to the direct quotation, like this one here, or paraphrasing. And paraphrasing is just summarizing information from another source. Instead of putting like a really big, long block quote to summarize a movie, I could just talk about it as if I'm explaining it to a friend. And I would still cite my source, though. To be on the safe side, some professors even encourage like having a page number for paraphrasing if you can. Let's see. And then I think there's some more notations at the end of this example too. Okay. So formatting the works cited page again, just to see it all together in an example. You know, use double spacing for all source information. You want to begin on a new page again at the end of your essay. Make sure that works cited, this title is centered and there's no extra formatting, no underlining, bolding. Use a hanging indentation. What that means is that the indent after the first line of, after every source is indented. So both of these lines, see how they come. This is further information on the same source. After the first line, you want to just indent everything. Oops, I think I clicked on the article. And let me open up that again. I think I was kind of at the end of though, but I want to show you, I think there's one or two other points on that I want to show. Let me find that again. And then please, any last questions too, because we're coming up on the hour, write those in the chat if you can, or think about them now. I'll ask. Yeah.
I did all that MLA on its own separate Word document, and I saved it as MLAs, but it's not all in alphabetical order. It's not by each time I used it. So I'll have to just reorganize it then.
Yep, just a matter of putting that works cited entries in alpha order.
Okay.
I think that, oh yeah, and the hanging indents too.
And make sure I put page number of my essay from where it's at, correct? Like if it was on page 1 or 2 next to each of them.
In your works cited page?
No, you know, like when you put it down on your works cited page, you would have to say what page you actually got it from on your essay, right? Like say my essay is 3 pages long. I have to put what page it was actually on, right? Of the 3 that I wrote.
I don't think you have to write a page number for where it's referenced in your work.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
So don't worry about that. And the alphabetical order, that just goes by the author's name. And if there's no author, you go by the title. So see how this starts with a P. So you would go off of that first letter in the title. Okay. I guess that is it then. So, oh my God, let me just send this to you guys. Make sure you have that good example, because that's also about technology and again, putting together some of these rules we learned about. Let me see. And then I just want to make sure that you guys have access to that too. So let me know if for some reason any of the files aren't opening on your computer, but let's see, where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. So the last one went through the chat just now as a PDF as well. So that was the student paper. Now, does anyone else have any questions. I want to encourage you, we didn't cover everything. You really need the practice, and questions will come up more as you're going through it on your own, I think. So if you want more in-depth help and like one-on-one tutoring, you can always see me at the English Center, or any of the other English tutors would be happy to help with this and synthesizing your sources. Even if you just have trouble, writing your next paragraph or brainstorming something or asking yourself which source to use, we can help with all of those questions too at the English Center. But that's all the time we have for this. How many words again for the whole essay? Alicia's asking.
1,500.
1,500.
Yes.
And some paragraphs can have more words than the other, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, 1,500 is good. Definitely, some students are gonna write more. I try to stay as close to that as you possibly can. 1,100 or 1,200 is not enough. So you want to try to hit that mark. And I think with this particular essay, once you really buy into it and you get excited about it because it's all around you, there's so many good resources to support all of your claims. And like I said, there are many other issues besides anxiety and depression, suicide, and there's just many more. The whole thing with your vision and sleep deprivation, those are fairly basic, but they're good and they're strong. But there's lots of other problems that have
Just
popped up
recently, I actually saw a chart that had eye exercises, and I was like, why do I need to know eye muscle exercises? And when I started reading more, it actually makes sense because we're staring at one focal point for so long, these screens, that we don't actually use our eye muscles that often, and they can get kind of like not fatigued, but out of shape that way. And I learned that some of the dull headaches that I had were from eye strain or just like lack of exercise. I thought that was interesting, besides the bigger problems that your professor mentions too, like anxiety and depression. Even just like the muscles in your eyes too can be affected.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're just, all of us, society as a whole is just staring at screens too much, from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, and now more so with with Netflix and all these other entertainment sites that people watch at night. And then it just, we're just like addicted to a screen, and it definitely affects our eyesight. And that's another problem. Somebody mentioned obesity. That's another problem. There's just so many things that have popped up from.
Yeah, and there are solutions too. I started doing some of the exercises are actually really simple, so not to scare anyone. Sorry, I kind of just threw that out there. One of them is like to track a figure 8 with your finger in your eyes. Another one is to, if you're staring at a close object, a foot away from you, relax your eyes by looking at an object in the distance, every hour for at least a minute or so, and that really helps. So there are also some solutions too.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. All right. Anybody have any questions about anything? Okay. Well,
all good.
Yes.
I said all good.
Okay. Good.
I'll make sure it's 10,000 words, so I'll give you a lot to read. No, just kidding. Lots to grade.
Well, I'm telling you, every time I get excited about all this, because I always said I'm going to write a book or put something together. I've been at it for 4 years now or so. And so I have all of these letters and I have all of this research and some wonderful essays from students. And so I made this summer just put together an outline and see if it's worth it. Why am I doing it? Is, for the edification, to share And as we all know, we're not getting enough information. And these, these major media conglomerates, they're just running free and trying to get us to pay as much attention to the phones and to screens as we possibly can. And of course, it's like dumbing us down a little bit, maybe more. But anyway, thank you, Noea, for a wonderful presentation again. Thank you, students, for showing up and for sharing. You guys are, like I say, the superestrellas, the superstars of the class, because you show up and you're always going to do well. Any other questions, or if you need anything, please let me know, and then check out the updated Canvas module that I updated this morning. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful day.
All right.
And
You
we'll
too.
see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.